Let's dump it out on top of this freezer and see what we got, eh?
When legal marijuana comes to Canada, chances are you won't just be smoking it. You'll be snacking on it, drinking it, maybe even serving it to your friends after dinner. Edible and drinkable cannabis products are the fastest growing segment of the emerging marijuana market. And all of it could soon be on a legal dispensary shelf near you. You are like the queen of baking marijuana. Like, give me a sense.
Diva.
The diva. I mean, just how much have you done?
All of it. Everything. I've done it all.
We're with Mary Jean Dunstan of Vancouver, but most people know her by her nickname, Watermelon.
I've done everything from like nice cream cones to marijuana bacon, marijuana jello shooters. I've made Swedish meatballs. I've made everything. I'm Watermelon. Welcome back to my kitchen.
These days, she has an internet cooking show, and we've come to her kitchen to learn about what happens when you eat marijuana.
If you were just to consume cannabis raw, you would not get high.
So you're telling me if I just ate this?
You just pick that up and threw it in your mouth right now, Chris, nothing would happen to you. But you have to heat it.
Heating marijuana, or soaking it in booze, releases the THC, the active ingredient that makes you high. And the dish for our demonstration, wild BC Chinook salmon.
If you taste marijuana salmon, you're going to know that marijuana is supposed to go on salmon. I'm just going to dry rub it on my salmon.
Then pop it in the oven and let the natural oil in the fish cook the marijuana.
It's cannabis. It tastes like it's supposed to be on salmon. Me and the gods know this, and you will too, soon.
Look, it looks like pesto.
It does look like pesto. Yeah. So it's medicinal pesto.
Pesto with the punch. Dunstan says eating marijuana is more social and socially acceptable than smoking it.
Way more popular than smoking. Edibles will be way more popular. To give you an indication of how popular these cookies are, Chris, I started baking in 1993, and I've easily, personally, made and sold 700,000 to 1 million cookies.
If I ate your rum ball, what would I feel?
You would feel euphoria. You feel a sense of bliss. The problem is, if you just go over that, you get panicky. But with cannabis, when you ingest it, it can be really powerful, and a little bit can go a long way, so a little bit can have a big impact.
And that's the big challenge with ingesting marijuana. It's hard to know how much you're getting and how high you'll get. It's also often impossible to tell marijuana-laced food from ordinary food, all of which is a problem for regulating the sale of edibles in Canada. Foremost among the worries are kids eating it. In Colorado, Oregon, and Washington, where marijuana is already legal, there are stories of children like this 8-year-old who accidentally ate a marijuana-infused cookie.
I felt like I was vibrating up and down, and that everything looked like it wasn't real.
The boy was rushed to emergency but was okay.
I can't tell the difference.
How can my friends know the difference?
Legal marijuana opponents are pushing educational videos like this for parents and children.
Well, I think we need to look at what's done in other places, see what the benefits and risks might be.
But many Canadian doctors want to avoid such missteps altogether.
I'd like to start with a very strong regulatory framework that does not allow the sale of edible products in the form of candies, baked goods, or other forms that directly appeal to children.
Dr. Patricia Daly is Vancouver's Chief Medical Health Officer. She supports legalizing and controlling marijuana. But when the city started licensing medical marijuana dispensaries, Daly campaigned to keep most edible products out of them.
Those poisonings can be very serious in young children, and the average age reported to poison control centers is under the age of 2. For children of that age, it can result in coma, it can depress respirations, and of about 2,000 cases identified from 2000 to 2013, 7% required critical care admission.
And it's not just young kids who get in trouble. Last year at Vancouver's big marijuana party known as 420 Day, 63 people ended up in hospital emergency for overdoing it. 70% of those had been eating marijuana edibles.
Yeah, the gluten-free cookies are...
The Harper government's medical marijuana program banned marijuana edibles, in part out of safety concerns.
Thank you, Supreme Court Canada. You made my day.
But the Supreme Court overturned the law, to the delight of patients and an edibles industry eager to emerge from the shadows.
This material hasn't been dried or cured.
Just south of Vancouver in Washington state, legal marijuana has been on sale since 2014, and regulators have been struggling to make edible products safe.
So this is our bottling line. We make our cannabis quencher here. It comes in 5 flavors.
We've come to Marco Hoffman's edibles factory in Seattle, Evergreen Herbal, where they make a mind-boggling selection of marijuana treats.
The issue with edibles, and this is where everybody gets in trouble with edibles, is the lag time. So smoking a joint is immediate. You feel it, you take a hit, you feel it right away. So they eat an edible, they don't feel it. Well, they eat a little more, they don't feel it, they eat the whole thing, oh my God, they've had too much. That's the trick with edibles, is knowing where your body is.
Washington's solution to over-consuming is in the packaging. A marijuana chocolate bar, for example, is packaged in individual sections, each with a dose of 10 milligrams of THC.
So the way they came up with the 10 milligram dose is they said, what is equivalent to the same intoxicating effects of 1 glass of wine or a beer?
This is a way to control the doses, as it were.
Correct.
Drinking an entire marijuana soda is supposed to be the equivalent of maybe 3 glasses of wine.
So this is a 6.3 ounce bottle. This right here is a 2.1 ounce shot glass. So this is the measuring device that comes with the bottle so that you can self-regulate 10 milligrams at a time.
The bottle also requires an opener, making it harder for kids to get at, and every bit of candy or food is individually wrapped.
I think that through proper packaging, through proper education, and not just education to the consumer, but the consumer then educating their child.
Hoffman says his sales of edible products have doubled every year of legalization. Edible products are now the fastest growing segment of the marijuana business, possibly as much as 50% of the legal market in the U.S. Safe products also hinge on reliable testing to tell you how high you could potentially get. And in Canada, marijuana testing labs are becoming a key part of Canada's pot industry, along with marijuana consultants such as Emily Kirkham.
Is it going to really make me messed up?
She used to be a chemist, but she now advises Canada's medical marijuana producers on how to ensure their products are tested and measured properly. How tough is it to get all this right as far as edibles?
I think it is tough. I mean, it's as simple as if you bake a pan of brownies and the pan is kind of tilted one side in the oven and half of it's thicker than the other. You're going to have varying levels of dosage in that brownie pan. So there's a lot of complexity involved for sure.
That cannabis salmon we cooked up, well, rather than eat it, we packed it up and took it to a lab to test it. We wanted to know how much marijuana was actually in it. Dunson told us it could be around 15 milligrams of cannabis, but turns out she was off.
There is about 4 milligrams of THC, and the active form of THC.
The salmon was actually only about a quarter of the strength expected, but some of her baked goods we tested were a lot stronger, especially the tiny ginger snap, which packed roughly the same punch as 4 glasses of wine. This cookie is probably the strongest of all those things that we had. Stronger than the salmon and the butter tart for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, maybe it would be wise to start with a small bite of this cookie before advancing.
It's always a little messy in the kitchen.
All of which suggests cooking and consuming marijuana in food is still far from a precise science, and it may take some trial and error to get the kind of consistency that consumers and regulators demand.
But it's always easier to start with a strict regulatory approach and to then perhaps loosen that over time. If we start by allowing the sale and marketing of these products, we know the marijuana industry will jump on that and we'll quickly have a very robust business, and it's very hard to put the genie back in the bottle once it's out.
In the U.S., legalization has made cannabis foods safer. In Canada, it has the potential to do so too, but it will also introduce them to lots of new consumers, many of whom have no idea what to expect. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.